All right, what's popping, y'all? So I have a quick news story for y'all this Saturday, and that is the FDA approved a cure for the sickle cell disease, which is the first treatment to use the gene editing tool CRISPR. Now, if you don't know, sickle cell is a very much devastating disease where your blood will become in the shapes of like sickles and more likely to clump together and cause a lot of other health problems. And not only is it such a devastating disease, but it affects at least 100,000 Americans, a majority of whom are Black. And so this is very much a big deal because when we talk about health, we're not just talking about health of Americans, we're talking about health disparities happening in African Americans, you know. Now, going more in effect about this therapy, it's called Gasgivy by Vertex Pharmaceuticals, and CRISPR Therapeutics is the first medicine to be approved in the United States that's used the gene editing tool CRISPR, which won its inventors the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2020. Now, the idea of CRISPR, we are familiar from it not only in public health, but also in biology. I took biology courses and all that talk about CRISPR. Is basically a way to find specific DNA, specific genes in your DNA, and basically to kind of edit those genes to alter the piece of that DNA. And so a lot of people have been raving for this about years, because when you talk about a lot of like genetic diseases that's caused, such as, you know, sickle cell, it's seen as a way for us to be able to edit and be able to, you know, have another treatment option for those diseases without trying to look for, let's say, another donor. Which sickle cell, you need another donor to, you know, donate their bone marrow to you in order for you to be cured, and that comes with a lot of risk, which I'll go over later. Now, this technique specifically for sickle cell is the first of two potential breakthroughs for those with the inherited blood disorder. The FDA on Friday also approved a second treatment for sickle cell disease called Lymphedema, a gene therapy from the drug maker Bluebird Bio. Both treatments work by genetically modifying a patient's own stem cells, basically modifying the cells to where, you know, you can get rid of the specific gene that is coding for, you know, sickle cells. Now, like I said, up until now, the only known cure for sickle cell disease was for a bone marrow transplant. And the reason why that is very much dangerous and risky, because you not only risk rejection by the immune system, such as, you know, you've seen in organs where, you know, you can biologically reject organs, you know, from other donors if you don't meet certain, you know, criteria or biologically, but also it's very difficult to find a matching donor. I'm pretty sure y'all been hassled, especially went to college, by, you know, finding a cure like bone marrow donor banks, because they are really trying to get people to donate their bone marrow or donate blood or get tested to make sure, you know, they can get people off the registry who are looking for bone marrow transplants. This was one of the main reasons why, because there's a lot of people with sickle cell, and it's very much rare to find, you know, one match. Now, the one big thing about this new therapy, and you probably peeped it from the title, but basically this therapy costs about $2.2 million per patient. Basically, the pricing strategy, experts argue, may place it out of reach for most families. Obviously, people don't have $2.2 million just lying around here even before inflation hit. And it's just one of the things that it doesn't even account for the treatment, because you also got hospital stay, you got chemotherapy, you got a lot of long-term patient care things you need to worry about, you know, not only just, you know, with the actual therapy. And to make a long story short, the reason why, you know, I'll argue that this is pretty much expensive, just the therapy alone, it's because this is a new treatment. Like, it's a new treatment, you know, it's the hottest thing on the market. You know, demand is pretty much is high because, you know, there, like I said, there's at least 100,000 people who are afflicted by this, and big pharma and insurance companies and health plans and all that, they haven't had the chance to really like figure out how they can get their piece of the cookie yet. So this is pretty much privately sold right now, and so that's why I say the reason why it's very expensive, because, you know, it's probably just owned by a private company, it's by private providers, Medicaid, Medicare, chip, and all that, haven't pretty much had figure out a way to really hone in on how to make it effective and accessible just yet. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be like that forever. It could very well change, but like I said, this is a very new treatment. We don't know how this is going to go. And the reason why this is such a big deal and accessibility is such a big issue is that sickle cell will have a very big, you know, determination of your life. Because going to example, just looking at the NIH foundation for their, you know, kind of like list of like sickle cell and like what it will cause, it can cause acute pain, it can cause chronic long-term pain, delayed growth and puberty, vitamin deficiencies, joint problems. Blood clots is the main issue. High blood pressure, especially when it comes in, comorbidities such as obesity, eating fast food and all that, as well as like other, health issues. And one of the biggest things for, women is also pregnancy problems. Like pregnancy can raise the risk of high blood pressure and blood clots in people who have sickle cell disease, and conditions increase the risk of miscarriage, premature birth, and low birth weights for the baby. So that's just among the things. You have complications. There are also complications of specific part of your body. Y'all can read all up on that. But sickle cell is a big deal. Like, let's just say that sickle cell is very much a big deal. And just keep going on the article. This is a one-time treatment, but there's a number of steps that span months that are required before the patient can actually get their stem cells modified. It begins with blood transfusions over 3 to 4 months, after which the stem cells are extracted from the patient's bone marrow and sent off to a lab where they are edited and then transfused or reinfused back into the patient. But to keep going, basically, before you reinfuse the blood back into the body, you basically have to use chemotherapy to destroy the patient's bone marrow, the marrow where it is creating these blood cells, so that way no flawed stem cells or sickle cells are still living in there. And so only then can you reinfuse the stem cells, as well as the recovery period takes about another month or two in the hospital to allow the cells to grow and for the patient to recover. And that is if everything goes off without a hitch. If it doesn't, basically you have the risk of having another round of CRISPR, or you may have another round of, say, in the hospital, a longer recovery depending on how the patient takes. So it gets very, very expensive to that standpoint. And so looking at the clinical trial of this, it included 46 people in the US and abroad, and 30 of them who had at least 18 months of follow-up care after the treatment. Of those, the treatment has been successful in 29. So just a little over 50% success rate. And, so definitely this was a successful trial by any measure. And for NBC News to really capture how, impactful sickle cell is on the, just people who have it in their family. Basically, Lorraine Morning, 29, of Phoenix, was among the trial patients who treatment was successful. Basically, her doctors did not expect her to live past the age of 11, and her mother lost several jobs when Morning was a child and a teenager because of her frequent hospital visits, because she has to go. Like I said, you have a list of symptoms you got to take care of, which is acute pain, lack of breathing, blood clots, and all that you have to take care of. And it's very much to have a routine life when you have a child who's always sick to that level. And to just detail her trial, basically, she joined the clinical trial at Sarah Cannon Research Institute in HCA Healthcare as a children's hospital at TriStar Sentinel in Nashville, Tennessee, a decision she initially regretted because she was living in Phoenix at the time, and she had to fly to Nashville once a month for treatment, whether it be for chemotherapy, for blood transfusion. Just going into the blood transfusion, they lasted 8 hours each, taking medication called Plurilax 4, which she recalled giving her 10 stomach aches. And then when she actually started doing the chemotherapy, her hair began to fall out and her skin changed color, resembling the appearance of a chemical burn. As well, you also experience nausea sometimes when you get chemotherapy. This is one of those things, this is going to take a long road of recovery, but it now seems like she enjoys it. She feeling the benefits, going to coffee shops, spending time with friends. And she actually started finishing her first semester of law school in DC this past semester. So it's a lot of risk. It's a lot of, symptoms, side effects, and stuff for the journey. I think it's well worth it, especially when you talk about how devastating sickle cell has been to, people around the world. But as always, you want to be cautiously optimistic about things, because we need to look at the long-term care of these trials. And this is very difficult because these only trials run for 2 years. And one of the risks that FDA advisory committee was, worried about was the idea of off-target effects. Basically, the idea that, when you're trying to edit that slice of DNA for the sickle cell disease, will it actually, cause any other effects to other parts of DNA that might code for, a lot of other serious things. But to at least this day, after the 18-month follow-up, there has been no, measurable consequences of it. But the FDA, however, added a box warning, the strongest safety warning label, to bluebirds lymphogenia, knowing that in rare cases, treatment can cause certain blood cancers. And this came from the idea that lymphogenia was given the warning after, 2 patients who got the therapy in a clinical trial died from a form of leukemia. So we don't know if it's, was directly affected by lymphogenia, but it was one of those things where they want to make sure to warn and make sure people know, like, hey, there is the rare case that you might get this. And some cases, some vaccines, medicines and all that, you're going to get rare side effects. That is normal. That, like, that is very much normal in our medical field, and something we need to be worried about. But we shouldn't really cut out what this does and how this has really shaped the world, when it talks about sickle cell, prevention and disease, treatment. And so with that, that has been Pop Health for today. I want to give this update because this is a huge public health, victory, in my opinion. Yes, they're still doing research. Yes, they're doing more warnings and stuff, but I don't want to dismiss about how big of a deal this is, because sickle cell, like I said, has devastated the lives of thousands of not only just the people worldwide, but Americans. And I'm just happy that we actually have found some type of treatment for it. And we need to actually figure out ways to make it more accessible and make it more, affordable for people to have, because, it's something that we need to do for the American people. So with that being said, if you like to see today, like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, all that wonderful good stuff. You want to see my last reaction video, it is right here. So I definitely implore you to go watch it. Other than that, stay warm, stay frosty, depending on what part of the country you're in, and peace out.